difficult to do reform in North Korea is because if you start to reform North Korea, then you're moving in the direction of looking like the South. Why do we need the North then? To be a second-rate South? And so the squeeze, the ideological dilemma that the North Korean regime faces is much more difficult because China could ignore Taiwan. You know, Taiwan was successful and capitalist and democratic, but it's small. But if you're North Korea and you say, we're going to be a second-class South Korea, we're going to change course and become a second-class, how does that work? I mean, citizens are just going to say, you know, we don't want that. And I tell you one thing about the refugees that we were very surprised with. None of them supported what we call a third way. And if you interviewed East Germans, you have a portion of the population that says, we don't want communism, but we don't want capitalism. We want a third way. They lost, but they ended up with social democratic regimes, you know, that were a mix of the capitalist economy and some of the elements of socialism that have been there, particularly in the social policy area. The North Korean refugees we interviewed, none of them want anything to do with the existing North Korean system, which means that the North Korean regime is rationally afraid of moving down this path. I mean, I really do think they face this extremely difficult dilemma.
So probably my prediction is that North Korean regime, especially Kim Jong-il and Kim Jong-un regime, will have really hard time when they have normalized relations with the United States, get security grant, security guarantee, peace treaty,
Right.
and even economic aid. Then there is no excuse to concentrate on the military and not develop the economy.
Right.
And with the current system, there will be limit to economic development, and open up reform makes the regime extremely vulnerable and unstable.
So you can see this, Jung Sung is really represents a very strong proponent of engagement, right? And you can see the logic of that. And you know, this was Kim Dae-jung's argument. If we relieve the constraint on the external side, it actually makes it harder for the regime, right? Because then, what's the excuse of having the military?
Actually, yeah. The dynastic succession to the second generation and the third generation is rarely seen.
No.
You can see that in South Korean chapel. But yeah, it's in regime succession, it's very rare. So what makes it possible? One of the reasons I think is actually, yeah, we are in a dire situation of American threat that can be really yeah, we have a powerful rationale for that kind of dictatorship. It's a dynastic succession. But once that is lifted, what will they do?
Spoken like engagement. Let's just take a couple more. I don't want to keep you. It's at 9:30. We'll stay and maybe talk to people individually, but people who are too polite to leave, we'll now let them go. So let's just take more questions and we'll, yeah.
So, well, you say that if you get rid of the external threat, then the military has no excuse to be there anymore, but, well, the thing is you would need an excuse only if people knew what was going on. So, like, I mean, you could get rid of the external threat and then the North Korean people wouldn't know that it's gone because, like, the government controls the information system. So how would that still be effective?
That's right. That's the question.
However,
this isn't just driven by the outside.
However, a regime can manipulate the information. There is a certain limit. So, you build upon something. You can exaggerate it, but without anything, it's hard to manufacture it completely. So the elite will know that, and when elite will know that, how can you coin a completely false story.
Well, didn't you say that the elite is mainly in the military, so wouldn't they want to keep their power?
So just to
So,
sharpen the debate,
Yeah.
I used to think more like he thinks, and I've kind of drifted a little bit more towards the center on this. I mean, I just think that the internal dynamics in North Korea now are really driving this picture. And some of the claims about the external security threat from the United States, I'm coming to think of them as being disingenuous. You know, I mean, this is a regime which is becoming more like a military regime, and the military regime wants the military to have function and to be central to the way the regime functions, and that's what we've got. Now, we might have contributed to that occurring, and I think we did, but now you're stuck with a very different animal, and I'm not sure they're interested in seeing the external, you know, constraint lifted for exactly the reasons that Jung Sung said.
So yeah, I agree with that. The lifting of the security threat will necessarily lead North Korea to reform. They may not, and it may take long time. But I think the probability of North Korea going to the reform will be much greater. Yeah, at least I can say.
Okay, I think we saw one more, and then we'll let people go. Is there one more?
I had
Yeah.
one, but it was with the succession of power, Marriott dynasty. Has there been any sign of unrest within like the military or the party in the upper parts of it, as far as Kim Il Jong's, I guess, pick that we of his son Kim Jong Un? Has there been any kind of, I guess, objection to that within the party or the military?
There's been a tremendous amount of speculation that such exists, and there's always someone in the intelligence community who's willing to find some little bit of evidence that their people were unhappy and so forth. But I think that the incentives for everyone who's around the top to rally around him as the candidate is just extraordinary. And the reason why is because everyone knows that once you break, this is an advantage of a monarchic system, right? Because kings depend on courtiers, they depend on the barons, right? If the king dies and no one knows who the successor is going to be, then who takes power? You immediately open a fight among the court, right? And so even if there are people who are suspicious of Kim Jong-un and worry about his capabilities, they're better off remaining loyal to his succession and fighting the fight behind the scenes than they are openly vying for power. And I think that's almost certainly, you know, even though we don't know, that's almost certainly the dynamic, is that even people who don't like him, they just shut up. Because your future depends on this thing succeeding, you know, and the thing remaining in place. So I don't think we have evidence that the succession is not. I'd like to say there's evidence that the succession is not going well, but I don't think we really have evidence that it's not going well. I think we'll leave it there. Huh? Yeah. Thanks very much for coming out, you guys.